Number 8. Dayon Rock. In the Taunton River, located in Massachusetts, a mysterious boulder juts out from the water. But what might seem like your average rock is actually a landmark that has puzzled historians and archaeologists for decades, and may even have ties to witchcraft. In writings from Reverend Cotton Mather, who became famous for his involvement in the Salem witch trials in the 1690s, the rock is described as having strange characters carved into its surface. Over the years, a number of theories have been floated about who wrote the message and what it actually says. From passages from the Old Testament to Hebrew and strange drawings, no one can agree on what the message on the rock actually means. One thing is clear though, lines have been deliberately carved into the rock, and inspections show that they are not the result of freezing and weathering. A number of geometric shapes and drawings on the rock appear to have several human figures within the drawings. No one has been able to decipher exactly what the other symbols mean. Theories about who made the carvings range from Native Americans to Vikings, and even the Phoenicians from the Eastern Mediterranean. Another puzzling thing is why the rock is in the middle of the river in the first place. The 40-ton boulder isn't something that can easily be moved, so whoever carved the mysterious symbols also placed it there deliberately. With other similar stones reported in Vermont and other nearby states, theories continue to swirl around the origin of the stone and its strange carvings as investigators continue their work to decode the odd symbols. Number 7. Tomb of Russian General Gaiman may have been found in Ardahan. Could a mysterious tomb discovered during an excavation project in northeastern Turkey belong to a Russian general? That was the question posed to construction workers who came across a coffin with a cross on the lid while they're working on the foundation of a new building. The workers informed the authorities of their discovery, and construction came to a halt, while the police secured the site around the excavation area. A team from the local museum was called in next to investigate, and when they did, they found the coffin the men had described, as well as a skeleton inside, dressed in boots and a coat, that researchers believe belonged to a Russian general. The skeleton was in remarkable shape, with the overcoat and boots still almost shining. The skull also still had visible hair and a beard, giving it a macabre, lifelike look. But who was it really? In the 1800s, Russians settled in the area of Turkey where the coffin was found. There were no valuable objects within the coffin itself, and researchers believe that because it was buried according to the Christian religion, the man inside was of great importance. Historians working on the case combed through the research archives and found a report of Russian Major General Vasily Gaiman, who died in the region in 1878 from the plague. During his time as a general in the Russian-Turkish War, Gaiman was rewarded with a gold and diamond-plated sword and a number of medals for his heroism. Unfortunately, none of these treasures were located with the body. He was so well regarded that both a village and a mountain range were named after the general. For historians, uncovering the true identity of the skeleton would be an amazing feat, but to tie him to history would be even more incredible, and it is something they will work towards to find the true identity of the man in the elaborate coffin. Number 6. Giant Serpent Mound. One of the largest surviving prehistoric burial mounds has been located in a small county in Ohio. Known as the Great Serpent Mound, this is a 1,300-foot-long, 3-foot-high prehistoric effigy mound located on a plateau in Ohio's Brush Creek. The stunning site is steeped in mystery and controversy, and its stark design of an uncoiling serpent is one that is keeping researchers guessing. Still unsure of whether it was built for astrological purposes or maybe even religious reasons, the mound winds back and forth for more than 800 feet. With 7 distinct coils that ended in a triple coil tail, the serpent is located high on a cliff above a stream. The mound also has a large open mouth with a 120-foot-long hollow oval feature that some believe could be an egg or maybe representations of the sun. So who do you think built this unique burial mound? Thousands of years ago, the land was home to Native American peoples who often built massive earthworks as burial and effigy mounds. The group, known as the Adena culture, lived in the area from 1000 BC to 100 AD. But researchers did radiocarbon dating of a piece of charcoal found within the mound and determined that the people who worked on it were there around 1070 AD. A group known as the Fort Ancient People living in the Ohio Valley were another possibility for the creators of the mound, but they were there much earlier than the 1,000-year-old charcoal would have been left behind. Another mystery surrounding the Serpent Mound is the design itself. Who built the giant snake? And why was it shown slowly uncoiling itself, about to swallow a huge egg? Some believe that it's possible the Native Americans who created it may have done so to represent the myth of the horned serpent in their culture. Others believe it might be a more artistic representation of an eclipse, or maybe even the phases of the moon. Either way, its creation, the people who created it, and its purpose are all mysteries that still remain unsolved. Number 5. Female hunter-gatherers. We've all seen depictions of early hunter-gatherers in Hollywood movies, but would it surprise you to know that it's possible some of the early big-game hunters were female? When scientists located a 9,000-year-old body buried in the Andes Mountains of South America, they were in for a shocking discovery. During excavations, they located an early burial that contained a hunting toolkit. When researchers further analyzed the body, they realized it belonged to a female. Because objects that are buried with people tend to be ones they used in life, researchers were excited and a little stunned to consider the fact that the hunter-gatherer was a woman. The discovery would send researchers on a path of discovery that would lead them to earlier burials throughout North and South America. Of 429 individuals from 107 different sites, 27 individuals were associated with big game hunting tools, and 11 of them were female. Even though it might not seem like a large number, the fact that any of the remains belonged to females was new evidence that women got in on the hunt. Hunting was thought of as a more male-dominated activity in more recent groups, but this new find has inspired researchers to continue their studies of various groups to determine if labor was divided differently between the sexes during different periods in history. Until then, the discovery of female hunter-gatherers is an exciting one that could change how we view our ancient people. Are you surprised by this ancient discovery or not? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 4. Crusader Alter. Israeli researchers were stunned to discover that a large rock the size of a dining room table inside Jerusalem's Holy Sepulchre is actually an important piece of history. The neglected artifact sat in a shadowy corner of the church for years, but it wasn't until 2018, when researchers decided to look at the opposite side of the stone, that they discovered it had ties to 12th century medieval crusaders. Believed to have been used for Mass that was celebrated there for more than 500 years, the stone was often visited by passing pilgrims who would write messages on it, which is why it was named the graffiti stone for so long. In the early 1800s, a devastating fire gutted the church's interior. A lot of it was rebuilt, but an altar that had been set up by the Crusaders vanished during renovations. As engineers and architects did more recent restorations, they came across a 2-ton block known as the graffiti stone that had become a popular place for visitors to leave their mark. After restorers turned the stone around, they soon realized that on the opposite side of the panel, intricate circles had been carved into the rock with traces of marble. The head of Israeli antiquities soon realized that it wasn't simply a rock. After consulting local libraries, historians pieced together the origin of the stone and realized that the geometric pattern was popular in Rome in the 12th century. The circular designs found on it weren't just there for decoration. They were a design that symbolized a group of Roman artisans known as the Cosmati family, who worked for the Pope himself. Further analysis of the stone showed that the bottom was unfinished and led researchers to believe that it was used as an altar in the Crusader-era church in the 12th century. This important piece of history connected the Holy Sepulchre, medieval crusaders, and the Pope, had been hidden in plain sight for decades, and its artistry is only now coming to light. Number 3. Love Conquers Death. Tombs containing lovers embracing have been uncovered worldwide for thousands of years. But A 1600-year-old tomb containing two skeletons locked in an embrace, found in the Jiangxi province in North China, had something a little different. Discovered in the same grave with their arms wrapped around one another in a hug, the skeletons appeared to be healthy. So how did they end up in the tomb? Was it suicide? Or could there be another reason? Researchers found a simple band on the ring finger of the woman inside the tomb. Scientists think the pair were husband and wife, clutching one another the way they did in life, and as it turns out, the way they would in eternal death. Another piece of evidence that the deaths may not have been natural is the fact that the male skeleton had obvious signs of trauma, while the female had none. What could have happened to the male? Do you think he died from an injury? Was it self-inflicted, or done by someone else? Do you think the female realized she couldn't live without her lover, so she decided to take her own life to be with her beloved for eternity? The ring found on the woman's finger didn't have any engravings or gemstones. It was a simple band of silver, a token of their love that endured long after she did. However the two died, the discovery of their bodies in an eternal embrace is a striking example of love and the afterlife in northern China. Number 2. Korean Cryp jewels. A large cache of unusual relics was located in a tomb in a city southwest of Seoul. Among the objects, hundreds of gold accessories were found, including jeweled beetle ornaments, along with a bronze crown and hundreds of stones. Believed to belong to a woman from a royal family in the Silla era, the relics were located in a tomb that had been excavated since 2014. Located in an area that was called the capital of the ancient kingdom of Silla, the tomb also had bronzed ornaments and a knife with intricate silver decorations. But who did these priceless objects belong to? Dating the tomb back to the 5th century, experts believe the owner was female. Considering similar iridescent jewel beetle ornaments have been discovered in tombs from higher-ranking members of the Silla Empire, it's not a stretch to think that the tomb belonged to a woman of great wealth and importance. But is it possible the priceless objects didn't belong to a woman, but instead a young girl? After studying the size of the tomb, they realized it would have held a body that was under 5 feet tall. But with no remaining bones inside the tomb to help them, researchers still cannot identify who the items belong to. Other tombs have been located over past archaeological digs, with most belonging to kings, queens, and princes. Collections of precious ornaments have also been found there, including similar gold crowns and earrings, and precious stones fashioned into necklaces and bracelets. Some of the objects were for ornamental purposes, but others were designed not to be worn, but as burial goods. So is it possible this cache of objects was left behind to show the opulent accessories worn by the ancient rich of Korea? Do you think they belonged to a queen, or maybe her royal kin? What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below. Number 1. Unknown life forms in Peru. Recently in Peru, something disturbing was unearthed, and it might not be human. A man approached the owners of a local tour group with evidence of a strange life form he claims to have found in the southern desert. When he returned with his find, he revealed a strange, oblong-shaped object that looked like the mummified skull of something from another world. The skull had a strange, oval shape with angled slits for eyelids. When he turned over the skull, there were clearly areas of bone-like material, marrow, and grayish-colored skin. Could it be alien? Researchers conducted a series of x-rays and found there were in fact sinuses and shallow eye sockets. But the strange skull wasn't the only item brought to researchers. A strange appendage resembling a hand was also found, but it is no ordinary hand. It is larger than the average adult hand, with incredibly long fingers with 6 bones in each finger. Human hands only have 3. Even though no one can tell for sure exactly what type of creature the skull and hand came from, the man who discovered them claims to have found many more specimens in either a cave or labyrinth in the Peruvian desert. But with locals patrolling the area to prevent curious onlookers from exploring the location, we may never know what kind of creature they belong to. Do you think the skull and hand belong to an alien? Or do you have any ideas on what kind of animal it could be? Let us know in the comments down below.
Number 10. Alien technology on Mars. A large and mysterious piece of technology may have just been discovered on the planet Mars. The experts are saying the technology may be significantly more advanced than anything human beings have ever been able to develop. The discovery came when NASA uploaded some pictures online that were taken by their Curiosity rover. At first glance, the pictures appear perfectly ordinary. I mean, besides the whole different planet thing. But if you have a keen eye, you may notice something that looks an awful lot like an engine, or at least some kind of artificial technology. The object is long, cylindrical, and appears to be made out of some kind of metal. UFO experts are claiming this is proof that aliens not only once lived on Mars, but that they developed technology far superior to whatever human beings can make. How long the mysterious piece of tech has been sitting on the Martian surface is a mystery. It looks kind of like it could be a jet engine that's been buried in the sand. Unfortunately, there's no way to actually identify it, and NASA claims it's nothing but a rock. Number 9. Billions of TRexes. In a recent study about one of our favorite dinosaurs, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, researchers believe that they have finally figured out just how many of these terrifying dinosaurs used to roam across our planet millions of years ago. According to the lead author of the study, Charles Marshall from the University of California, there were at least 2.5 billion T-Rex living on Earth. That is an astonishing number. This conclusion was reached by calculating body size, reproductive behavior, and how long they spent wandering the globe before the asteroid took them out for good. The study found that these dinosaurs lived over 127,000 generations. When compared to how many generations there are of humans, this number is astronomical. Unfortunately, all 2.5 billion of them were not alive at the same time. Instead, this is spread out during a period between 1.2 and 3.6 million years. The population density was actually pretty small at one time. Researchers say there would have only been about 2 T-Rex in an area the size of Washington, D.C., or 3,800 in California. But if there really were that many, why haven't we found a lot more fossils? Or where do you think most of them will be found in the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Number 8. Baboon mummies. A team of researchers in Egypt recently solved a mystery thousands of years in the making after they discovered the origins of 155 baboon mummies recovered from tombs and temples. The mystery has to do with a place called the Land of Punt, which historians know served as a trading partner with ancient Egypt for over 1,000 years. However, researchers have never been able to figure out where this place was. They know the Land of Punt traded things like gold, incense, and sacred baboons to Egypt. But it wasn't until archaeologists got their hands on some of these baboons, which the Egyptians had turned into mummies, that they figured out where the Land of Punt really was. Nathaniel J. Dominy, a lead study author, wrote a paper about a chemical element that acts as a geographic fingerprint of sorts, called strontium. The chemical is found in bedrock, and as it breaks down, it enters the food chain. This allows experts to find traces of it in hair, teeth, and bone. Then they can piece together clues about where an animal was born and where it lived before it died. The method allowed researchers to determine at least 5 of the baboons that were studied resided in Egypt for quite a while before death, indicating the Egyptians ran a captive breeding program. The researchers took tissue samples from the 155 baboons found in Egypt and linked them to locations in Ethiopia, Somalia, and Yemen. This means the legendary Land of Punt was in the area of what would later become the Kingdom of the Queen of Sheba, with the capital probably in what is modern Ethiopia. The baboons were one of the most valuable trade items, since the Egyptians viewed them as a physical representation of the god Thoth, ruler of magic and god of the moon. Number 7. Worm Tornado. The discovery of a terrifying worm tornado in New Jersey recently shocked scientists. It's not that unusual for earthworms to be brought to the surface during spring rains. This is actually one of the main reasons you always see earthworms wriggling over the sidewalks during heavy rainfall. But during a recent rainstorm near New York City, something a little more unusual formed. Something locals have dubbed the wormnado. Luckily, this wormnado didn't physically form in the sky. There wasn't an actual tornado composed of billions of worm bodies either. Instead, a resident of the small town of Hoboken stumbled upon hundreds and hundreds of worms swirling around in a tornado shape on the sidewalk. She told Live Science that they made a spiraling cyclone at the edge of the grass and the concrete, something she had never seen before. No one had. Scientists have yet to find a reason why the worms formed this strange tornado formation on the sidewalk. They say it might have had something to do with worm herding behavior, something they've been known to perform while on the surface. Worms can actually communicate to one another through touch, allowing large masses of worms to all move in one direction like a school of fish. Do you have any other ideas on why the worms did this? If you do, let us know in the comments section down below. And if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. Anunaki statue on Mars. In one of the most shocking space discoveries ever, a statue of an ancient Anunnaki god was discovered on the surface of Mars. The discovery is yet again thanks to a NASA rover which captured the image of the Martian planet with something looking like a broken statue, blending in almost perfectly with the dust. The object is only visible when zooming in on the image, but it looks shockingly familiar to the statues of the Anunnaki that have been found in ancient Mesopotamia. For those who don't know, the Anunnaki are believed to be aliens who descended to Earth about 10,000 years ago and enslaved humans to help them mine for gold. They helped humans develop technology and assisted them in building some of the greatest ancient monuments, such as the pyramids in Egypt. There are skeptics that say our brains are just playing tricks. Nothing more than something called pareidolia, which means we only think we're seeing a familiar face or shape. But then there are the people that really believe that there is a lot more to Mars than what we've been told. The fact that a statue of an Anunnaki may be hiding on Mars could be proof that there really was an ancient civilization on the Red Planet. It could be that the Anunnaki enslaved them and then wiped out the civilization before moving on to Earth. Number 5. Tortilla fish. A fisherman in Florida made a bizarre discovery when he reeled in what has been called a tortilla fish. The discovery was a major surprise because it's nothing like people have ever seen before. People usually catch tuna or something, not weird fish that look like tortillas. And it really did. The fish is a very pale tan with dark brown spots, just like a tortilla you'd get when you order a burrito at Taco Bell. The angler's name is Tom Bosworth, a retiree living near Tampa Bay. He caught the fish back in March when he was out on an expedition with 2 of his friends. However, the fish was such a weird catch that it wasn't even identified until months later at the end of August. Finally, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission figured out what the weird animal was. It's called an orange filefish, and it's one of the stranger species that can be found off the coast of Florida. One of the reasons not too many anglers know about the fish is that it's not a very satisfying creature to catch. Ocean predators may like to eat orange filefish, but definitely not humans. They have leathery skin, almost no meat, and usually make people who try to eat them sick. Number 4. Glowing reptiles. Scientists in Africa recently discovered reptiles that glow fluorescent in the dark. The glowing reptiles are special geckos that live in Namibia and have bright stripes and spots that turn neon at night to keep the lizards from being eaten by predators. This species has special translucent skin with the bones underneath glowing bright blue when put under ultraviolet light. Humans can't necessarily see when the lizards are glowing, but other animals certainly can. What's really shocking is that as scientists do more research on the phenomenon of glowing lizards, they find more and more species. Even lizards like chameleons sometimes glow fluorescent. This shared attribute suggests modern lizards are more closely related to one another than previously thought. Other than just glowing in the dark to scare away predators, geckos use the ability to spot other geckos from a great distance. But why exactly geckos, which are solitary animals, need to spot one another through the jungle is still a bit of a mystery. Number 3. The Accident Object. A mysterious object, nicknamed the Accident, has been slowly sailing through the Milky Way for about 10 billion years. Astronomers made the incredible discovery not long ago, though they can't quite figure out what the object is. It's definitely not a star, and it's not really a planet. It might be something between a brown dwarf and a failed star, a kind of accidental creation of the universe. Things are about to get extremely science fiction, so hold on to your socks. Brown dwarf stars are typically 80 times larger than the planet Jupiter, yet hold only a small fraction of the mass of our sun. These celestial objects start life as stars, but never build up enough mass to sustain the necessary nuclear fusion inside their core. Because of this, they begin to cool and get dim over millions of years until they're basically dead embers floating through space. The Accident was discovered by accident by a civilian scientist doing a casual survey of the sky. Even after getting the attention of professional scientists, nobody seems to be able to fully identify the thing. All they know is that it's about the size of a brown dwarf, but has been floating aimlessly for over twice the amount of time that Earth has been a planet. Oh yeah, and it's moving somewhere around 500,000 miles an hour. This has also boggled scientists because brown dwarfs don't typically move that fast. It almost moves as if being propelled by super engines. Number 2. Ancient Battering Rams. Archaeologists uncovered 4 ancient battering rams used by the Romans in a battle that took place in 241 BCE. Each of these huge rams weigh a whopping 450 pounds. They were originally attached to the front of warships and used during the Battle of the Agates to decimate the opposing Carthaginian fleet. This battle took place during the First Punic War between Rome and Phoenicia, with Carthage being the old capital in what is modern Tunisia. The conflict lasted a full 23 years, the longest naval war in ancient times. The problem was that Rome occupied Sicily and the Phoenicians operated out of Carthage, which was literally just across the water. There was no settling the dispute, and so the two great civilizations fought to the death. But as you may already know, it was Rome that won the battle and the war. These ancient rams are a great reminder of just how powerful and advanced the Roman war machine was when it conquered the world. Number 1. Space Sword. The Hubble telescope captured a space sword stabbing a giant celestial heart in one of the most captivating images ever taken by a telescope. In scientific terms, this is a phenomenon called a Herbig-Haro object. The object is in fact what looks like a flaming blue sword sticking through a beating orange heart in the middle of the cosmos. But despite the way it looks, the sword is not a physical thing. It's composed of superheated gas blasting through space from opposite poles of a newly born star. The heart in this image, the beating orange core, is in fact the newborn star. It's one of the rarest moments ever captured in space, making it a once-in-a-lifetime photograph. The new star was born in the constellation Orion, pretty close to us at about 1,300 light years away. As the new star was born, gas blew out of its poles. Think of energy beams shooting out of the Earth's north and south pole. The intense light was then captured using Hubble's Wide Field Camera 3, revealing the phenomenon in both infrared and optical wavelengths. The truly uncanny thing is that the blasts of energy create a massive cosmic sword even bigger than our planet.
Number 10. Tuna El Jabel and the Sacred Baboon. The ancient Egyptian site of Tuna El Jabel was once the capital of the pharaoh Akhenaten, one of the most controversial pharaohs in all of Egyptian history. This guy tried to break away from the traditional religions of Egypt, forcing his people to worship a single sun deity known as Aten. The ruins of this city are just as mysterious as the pharaoh who once ruled here. Several underground cult chapels cased with limestone blocks form the entrance rooms into the ibis galleries. The rooms were up to 50 feet long and contained cult niches. In the south of the city is a necropolis in which a strange baboon mummy was discovered by archaeologists. Thousands of years ago, this place was once a catacomb filled with thousands of mummified baboons, millions of mummified birds, and even preserved bird eggs. The ibis bird and the baboon were two sacred animals associated with Thoth, the Egyptian god of the moon and magic. It is believed that a cult of Thoth used this necropolis to continuously store mummified animals as offerings to their god. Unfortunately, grave robbers destroyed most of the mummies. Only a handful of preserved baboons were discovered in modern times by researchers. Number 9. The Tallen Man. The Tallen Man is one of the strangest things ever discovered by archaeologists. He died 2,400 years ago and was dumped into a bog, where he very slowly transformed into a natural mummy. His death came in the Iron Age, with experts saying he was killed as part of a ritual sacrifice to whatever ancient gods the heathen Europeans worshipped at the time. He was found in Denmark not that long ago, in the year 1950, with his body so perfectly preserved that the authorities thought he was possibly a murder victim. It wasn't until archaeologists got involved in the case that the police realized they were dealing with somebody quite ancient. The Tallen Man was even discovered with a leather noose still tied around his neck. But why was he hanged? He was hung, laid peacefully in a peat bog, and then forgotten for over 2 millennia. Researchers really don't know much else about the guy, or who he may have been during life, or why he was chosen to be sacrificed to mysterious gods. The only thing they do know is he was around 30 to 40 years old, and what he ate for his last meal. A team of researchers from Denmark analyzed the contents of his stomach, finding that his last meal was consumed about 12 hours before death and consisted of porridge and fish. Number 8. Inca Treasure Ring. A mysterious treasure from the great Inca Empire was discovered on a beach in Florida. How this happened is a long and shocking story that goes all the way back to the 12th century, to when the Inca Empire appeared in the Andes Mountains of Peru. The empire grew and grew until they controlled Peru, parts of Chile, and even Ecuador. They had about 12 million people in their civilization and were extremely wealthy in gold and jewels. But then, when the Europeans showed up, they started stealing all the jewels from the Inca. There was a lot of treasure in South America, and the Europeans wanted to take it back to their homeland. One of the most notorious treasure thieves was King Philip V of Spain, who ordered entire fleets to bring him as much gold, silver, and other treasure back from the New World as physically possible. In 1715, 6 ships filled with treasure sank off the coast of Florida, with hundreds of tons of riches being lost to the sea. Over 300 years later, that treasure is still washing up on Florida beaches. And that's exactly how the mysterious ancient treasure was discovered on Vero Beach by an expert metal detectorist. He found a gold Inca ring adorned with emeralds, stolen from the Inca, lost by the Spanish, and washed up probably thanks to a hurricane. Have you ever found anything valuable on a beach? What was it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 7. Charred Bones. Archaeologists recently did a study on a large group of charred human skeletons that were found in the Italian city of Herculaneum, which, just like Pompeii, was devastated during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in the year 79 AD. But the study had nothing to do with the volcano. Instead, researchers wanted to get a better idea of what people 2,000 years ago were eating. The researchers discovered that there was a large discrepancy between what was being eaten by ancient Roman men and ancient Roman women. According to archaeologist Oliver Craig with the University of York, they found that men and women had eaten different proportions of marine and land food. By studying the charred bones, they found that men ate lots of cereal and fish, while women ate more eggs and meat. Archaeologists have absolutely no idea why they had such different diets, since they lived in the exact same place at the exact same time. One of the theories is that men were probably more involved in the fishing, so they were able to eat more fresh fish. Women, on the other hand, were normally involved in the farming, so they ate a lot more chicken, eggs, and meat from their farm animals. Number 6. Four-legged whale. Scientists discovered the fossil of an ancient whale that had some pretty surprising appendages. This fossil has been dated at 43 million years old. What's so incredible about it is that the whale was actually amphibious and had 4 legs. What this means is that it basically looked like any whale you would see on Earth today, except that it had 4 legs and walked on land like a frog. The new species has been named Phaeomectes anubis, after the Egyptian god of death. According to the report in Nature World News, scientists had not known about this species of legged whale before finding the fossil. However, the whale does belong to an already known group of amphibious whales that scientists call Protocetus, which lived during the Eocene epoch. The big mystery is that scientists are still trying to figure out the evolutionary path that the whales were on. They don't know if the whales were initially mammals that walked on land and slowly lost their legs as they spent more time in the sea, or just what exactly was going on here. Do you have any ideas on the unique evolution of these whales? Number 5. Ancient human DNA. The bones of a teenage hunter-gatherer girl who died over 7,000 years ago on the island of Sulawesi in Indonesia has revealed the incredible story of a previously unknown type of human. According to the archaeologists working on analyzing her remains, she was part of the Toalian culture, found only on a small part of the Indonesian island. This culture descended from the first group of modern humans who entered the area over 50,000 years ago. But what's truly fascinating is that scientists discovered that not a single descendant from this ancient breed of human has made it to modern times. It's a total mystery, as scientists now understand that a totally unknown race of people lived here that they have absolutely no record of. They know that they most likely migrated from Asia, although there aren't any descendants of this lineage remaining. And why they ended up going extinct still remains unknown. Number 4. Roman letters. A collection of 25 Roman letters were recently found at the fortress of Vindolanda, near Hadrian's Wall in the United Kingdom. These incredible letters detail some rather mundane things, such as an unwelcome beer shortage, some birthday celebrations, and one account of a person getting cold feet. One of these mysterious letters was written by a Roman named Masclus, who was requesting that his commanding officer send more beer supplies to the outpost. He even sent his commanding officer a different letter requesting leave, which archaeologists say could have been the result of a mighty hangover. The letters themselves written on thin pieces of birch bark, and it's a miracle that the ink has remained in good enough condition throughout the last 2,000 years for them to be deciphered. These aren't the only Roman letters ever found at the site either. It was almost 3 decades ago, in 1992, when a huge cache of Roman letters was discovered here, over 700 that have already been translated and published. Many of these can be found in the British Museum right now. Number 3. Eternal lovers. Archaeologists in China were left feeling a little heartbroken after they discovered a pair of lovers who had been locked in an eternal embrace for over 1,500 years. The couple died during the North Wei dynasty and were buried together, still embracing one another. Aww. They were dug up from a cemetery in the Shaanxi province, with their remains being dated back to somewhere between 386 and 534 AD. But before you get too emotional about the dead lovers, there is a bit of a twist. Archaeologists say the woman may have volunteered to be killed in order to be buried with her husband. Oh. She was discovered with a metal ring on her finger, confirming that these two were definitely partners. But no cause of death has been determined. It probably won't be determined ever, as archaeologists don't want to remove the lovers from their grave plot. They are instead going to secure the site and leave it available for future visitors. This means the mystery surrounding the entombed couple will never be solved. And in the end, that's probably not such a bad thing. Sometimes love can't be explained. Number 2. Mysterious Canaanite Palace. Back in the 18th century BC, there was a massive palace at the site of Tel Kabri, in what is today northern Israel. The enormous palace was built by the ancient Canaanite people, over 65,000 square feet. Archaeologists stumbled upon this place in 2009 and were shocked at just how large and advanced the development of the palace actually was. The thing was built 3,700 years ago, probably serving as one of the political centers for the ancient Canaanite people. However, researchers were equally stunned when they realized that the place had been abandoned abruptly and seemingly without reason. After quite a bit of research, they realized that many of the ruins in the palace and surrounding it were a bit tilted. They soon surmised that a great earthquake had caused the palace to almost completely crumble and had done serious damage to the surrounding settlements. In all likelihood, the people were so terrified that they had been the victims of a vengeful god that they fled the city, abandoned the palace, and never returned. Number 1. Feathered Shield. An ancient feathered shield was discovered hiding inside of a Peruvian temple. It was put there 1,300 years ago, only recently recovered by archaeologists. The shield was crafted by the Moche people, who once ruled much of northern Peru in the time before the Inca. It wasn't quite as effective as some of the shields used by the knights and warriors in Europe, mostly because it hadn't actually been used in fighting. The shield had a ritualistic purpose, found with dozens of macaw feathers sewn into it, though there had probably been over 100 feathers sewn onto its surface when it was first made. The bulk of the shield was made from woven basketry. It seems the Moche liked to keep their shields pretty small, which brings up the question of whether they were meant for something like gladiatorial combat or some other type of fighting. And what was the mysterious artifact doing underneath the temple? Archaeologists believe it was used in some sort of ritual in the basement of the temple. Whatever the ritual had been, it was so important that the chamber was sealed completely, with the shield still inside. Thanks for watching. Which of these discoveries is the most fascinating to you? Let us know in the comment section down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and come back again for more awesome videos. See you next time. Bye!